Okay, so today we're going to start off with Tanya, and we're going to talk about the Parsha, and we're going to talk about Hanukkah. We have a lot of amazing topics to cover. So in chapters 35, 36, and 37 of Tanya, which we discussed up until now, we spoke about the main thing is action. Action is the most important thing, but nothing is black and white. There's always another side. And we can't forget about kavana, about intention. So 38, 39, and 40, which we're going to try to cover today, is all about the importance of not just doing something, not just doing the deed, but also having the proper intention, which means to have the love, to have the passion, to have the excitement, to be invested in it. That's what we're going to talk about today. So just for example, imagine somebody that really likes to drink coffee, not just any kind of coffee, but like special coffee, and wherever they go touring in the world, they always make sure to go to the best coffee places, and they really, really enjoy special coffee. And the guy wakes up one morning and there is no coffee in the house. So his wife sees that he's not so happy. She says, "What's the problem?" He says, "Listen, I really need my coffee, and there's no coffee." So she sits down and she commiserates with him about the fact that there's no coffee. And they sit and talk about all the places that they went to and all the delicious coffee shops that they've been to and how delicious the coffee was. But ultimately the wife feels, she feels very bad that he doesn't have the coffee, but she's just in the place of talking about it. The teenage daughter marches down the stairs. She sees her parents are having this conversation. She walks down the street. She buys Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, and she brings home coffee for her father. And she doesn't get it. Maybe she never even drank coffee in her life. She doesn't get this like crazy desire for coffee, but she knows that her father wants it. So she just brings it. And of course the father is very happy. So this is like an analogy for a tzaddik versus a beinoni. A tzaddik is someone that he could relate to God, like just like the wife to understand the husband, that his need and his desire for the coffee. Maybe she also appreciates the coffee, but ultimately the beinoni, which is what we're striving to be, is the main thing is the action. You could sit and talk about coffee from today to tomorrow, but it's like a soul without a body. If you can't a mitzvah, the action. The action is the main thing, and the kavana, the intention, enhances the action. But if you just have the intention and you don't have the action, then you have nothing. So even in this parable, eventually the wife should get up and figure out do something as well. So this is what we're discussing. We're discussing the advantage of intention, of kavana. Another example, you have a waiter, go to a restaurant, and you have a waiter, and he is so funny and so charismatic, and he should like be a comedian, and he's serving with a smile and everything, but he messes up the order. You asked for this kind of chicken, and you end up with a different kind of chicken. And so yes, it's very nice to have service with a smile, but if you don't get the service, you don't get what you asked for, then you're going to be disappointed. If you wanted to go to a comedy show, you'd pay tickets and you'd go to a show. But if you're coming to a restaurant, then your intention is to get a good meal and to get what you want. And if the waiter is not giving you what you asked for, then you're going to be disappointed. So ultimately, why did we spend 3 chapters and talk about how important action is? Because what does action accomplish? Who remembers? What's the advantage of action? The advantage of action is that you are able to fulfill God's most deepest desire. And through action, you are making this world, this physical low world, into a dwelling place for God, right? So what's the advantage of kavana? So we're not saying, oh, everything that we said until now, that's all great, but you need to have kavana too. What we're saying is we're continuing the story. It's not action versus kavana, but it's rather action. The kavana is what? Why do we need to have kavana? For the same reason that we need to have action. Whatever action does, action accomplishes a dwelling place in this world, a comfortable home for God in this world. Kavana, what it does is it enhances the amount of the revelation that is going to be in this world. For example, if you can make a home for God in this world, but if you just do the action, just the dry action, then you're making a home for God. But if you have kavana too, then not only making a home for God, but the home is all lit up. You have a bright home, a bright home with lights on. It's so the revelation is so much. The revelation is so much greater. So basically, there are levels. There are levels to when we do something. It's not everything is created. Not everything is equal. The more you invest in it, the more the higher degree of revelation is in this world. So if I just do the action, I add another brick to God's home. But if I also have intention, if I also have the love and the passion, then not only did I make a home for God in this world, not only did I reveal God in this world, but I revealed God to a greater degree. I also made it that much lighter, that much brighter. And there are actually 4 different levels. There are actually 4 different levels of where our mitzvah could go, depending on how we did it. And those 4 levels represent the 4 worlds. The 4 worlds are Atzilos, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, which represent the 4 different kingdoms, which are the lowest is inanimate objects like rocks. The next one is tzemeach, which is vegetables, things that grow. The third is animal, and the 4th is human. So there's 4 different ways you could do a mitzvah. 2 ways are action, and 2 are emotion. So the lowest level is if I do an action. If I do a physical action, that will, without intention, that will take my mitzvah to the lowest world, which is like a stone. I did it like a stone. I did it like a robot. That's how high it can go. If I do a physical mitzvah, a verbal physical mitzvah, that means I davened, I learned, I used my mouth. So it's a little bit more spiritual. Then that mitzvah will go to a higher level, which is the vegetable world. Then if I do a mitzvah with emotion, now within emotion, there are 2 levels. It either could be emotion that I was born with. We're all born with a love and fear for Hashem. So if I awaken the emotion, the love that I have for Hashem that I'm born with, it's my inheritance, then my mitzvah will go to the level of animal. Because animals, animals act with instinct, act according to their nature. And this love that you have is your nature. And the highest level is if I do a mitzvah with kavana, with a type of kavana, with a type of kavana that I use my head for. And that's what's special about a human, different than an animal, that we have seichel, that we have a brain. If I meditate, if I think hard about Hashem, about Hashem's greatness, and I create emotion, then my mitzvah will go to the highest level, which is the human level. So basically what we're in a nutshell, what we're saying is that mitzvahs, the action, is most important. Why is it most important? Because it reveals godliness in this world. And then we said, why is kavana, why is intention important? Is because it reveals God, for the same reason action is important. Because it reveals godliness in this world to even a higher, greater, it enhances the revelation to a higher, greater level. So basically, when we serve Hashem, it's not about, serving Hashem is not so that I should feel spiritual. It's not a self-help book to make me feel good. Serving Hashem, it's not serving myself. Serving Hashem means, what is Hashem's deepest desire? And Hashem's deepest desire is a dwelling place in this world. And the way we do it is through action, and it's even enhanced even more through intention. So that's basically in a nutshell, the Tanya. Yeah.
When you leave with one, you're just sitting with stuff. You learn ways to meditate on learning. How do I catch myself before I make a bracha, before I do anything? I'm so used to just, how do I catch myself to meditate before? How do I remind myself to meditate before? We're so habitual about it.
Yeah.
When you get the passion after the mitzvah?
I think part of the reason of why bracha is made, the meaning of bracha is that Hashem.
That's a good one.
Like I was listening to someone, she said that she stops and says, Hashem, I'm doing this mitzvah so that I can bond with you. And in essence, the bracha is that meaning. Baruch Hashem Asher Kedishanu. The mitzvah mitzvah. I want to bond with you, Hashem. And that's why we sort of make a bracha before we do mitzvah. So if you say it in English or even try to,
Hashem, I want to bond with you.
but that is what we're doing. Like I think that's the concept of why bracha is made before mitzvah. It's recognizing that we're doing the mitzvah to bond with Hashem.
So every mitzvah is connected to Hashem.
Absolutely. So then you're going to say, so who cares where my mitzvah went? It went to this world, went to that world. I can't see it anyway. Who cares? So basically, a mitzvah is like a bird, and the kavana is the wings. So it basically makes your mitzvah soar when you do it with love, when you do it with feeling, and do it with passion. Who cares how high the bird went? Who cares? So it's true. In this world right now, we can't see the effect of the mitzvah, and if I had more love, or less love, more emotion, less emotion. But when Mashiach comes, according to how invested, according to how much love and passion we had, that's how bright the world is going to be. So the more passion and love we put in now, the brighter the world will be when Mashiach comes. So now we don't see it. Now we don't appreciate it. But everything that we do really makes a difference. It's about being mindful. It's about learning. That's what. Yeah. But the main thing is the action. The main thing is the action. When you did the mitzvah, you built the home. And it does say about davening, like if you davened yesterday and you didn't have kavana, but today you davened with kavana, then when the davening today goes up, it will take with it the davening of yesterday also.
That's good.
Yeah. We're on a journey. And some days are better, and some days we fall a little bit. But as long as we keep ourselves charged and keep learning, it will keep us. It will. That's what the learning does. The learning it gives us. So you see, the emotions. We said the emotions are so necessary because they reveal Hashem in this world even more. But also, even before that, the emotions are what gets us to do the action in the first place. So, but that's not, but the main reason, the main advantage of the emotions is to reveal Hashem even more. So you could make a lunch, or you could make supper, And then you could put in a little bit more effort by setting the table nicely, or the dishes, or the ambiance, the flowers, whatever it is. It just enhances the whole experience. The person will be full either way, but it's so much nicer. It's going the extra mile. It's making it that much more. It makes it that much more special when we have the kavanah as well. Okay, so now we're going to take all these ideas that we just spoke about in Tanya, which is basically what we're saying is that that there are many different levels. There are many different levels when we serve Hashem. There are also many different levels in how Hashem responds to us. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Okay. So actually last night, a dear friend made, her brothers are in Gaza, she fighting as soldiers, and she made an event in her home. Sarah Scheidler, she made an event in her home, a shleishim, it's been a month since the events in Israel, since October 7th, and so she made an event in her house last night. They said Tillim, and I shared this teaching that I'm going to share now as well. So Baruch Hashem, we already have the poem. I don't know if we should print it out or I should just do it orally. Or I could put it, it's 3 pages. It's kind of long.
We put it on
but,
the chat and I'll print it to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it on the chat if anyone. Yeah. Usually I write the poem after the class, but this time, Baruch Hashem, we're ahead of the game. Okay, so if you have your phone, you could open it up here. Otherwise, we'll print a few copies. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So this week's parsha is Parshas Chayei Sarah. What do we have in this parsha? Sarah, and we have that Rivka comes to the tent, and the 3 miracles that happened when Sarah was alive returned, and that's how Yitzchak knew that Rivka was the one for him to marry. So we learn in this parsha that both Sarah and Rivka, their Shabbos candles stayed lit from one Friday to the next. And this parsha, Parshas Chayei Sarah, usually we read it on the same week of Shabbos Mevarchim Kislev. So there has to be a connection between Parshas Chayei Sarah and the month of Kislev, specifically the Yantif in the month of Kislev, which is Hanukkah. So there's a very obvious connection here with Sarah and Rivka. You have that the candles stayed lit for a whole week, and then we have the miracle of Hanukkah, where the menorah, the lights of the menorah, there was only enough oil for one day, and it lasted for 8 days and nights. The oil in the menorah, I should say, for 8 nights, because actually there was a mitzvah every single day to light the menorah, so it was for 8 nights. Okay, so what is the big deal about Hanukkah? What's the big deal? Sarah and Rivka's candles, they were lit for 7 days. So is the miracle of Hanukkah just greater because it was an 8th day, one extra day? What is the big deal about the miracle of Hanukkah? And we know that it's a big deal because there is no holiday to commemorate to Sarah and Rivka's candles, but we all celebrate Hanukkah. Everyone celebrates Hanukkah. So the Hanukkah there has to be something unique, different, special, more than even Sarah and Rivka's candles that give a reason for us to have such a special holiday of Hanukkah. So also it has to be something unique. We also have a story in Melachim, in Navi, where there was a woman who was very, very poor, and she had 2 children, and and she owed a lot of money. Her husband supported the Talmidei Chachamim. Okay, no problem. Okay, everyone could get on their phone. Okay, so her husband supported Talmidei Chacham for many years and provided them with food and everything. And then he passed away, and there were a lot of debts, and she had no money. She went to Elisha, and she said, "Well, please help me. The debtors are coming, and they're going to take my sons away because I can't pay the debt." So Elisha said, "What do you have in your house?" She said, "I have a little bit of oil." So Elisha said, "Go to all your neighbors, get as many vessels as you possibly can, and then close the door, sit down, and then take the oil that you have and start pouring." And that's what she did. She poured and poured and poured from this one little container that she had, and all the vessels in the entire house were filled with oil. So we already have that miracle of Elisha with the oil. And we already have the miracle of Sarah and Rivka that the oil lasted for 7 days, that the candle stayed lit for 7 days. So what is the big deal about Hanukkah? Okay. So I'm gonna follow along with this poem just I shouldn't forget anything. Okay. Parshas Chayei Sarah is read most of the time on Shabbos Mevarchim Kislev, the month in which the menorah does shine. In the parsha, we learn that Sarah and Rivka's candles remain lit all week. So what makes the lights of Hanukkah so much more unique? Okay, another question. This question, the Beis Yosef asks, and for this question, there are hundreds of answers for this question. As a matter of fact, there's a book that's printed that has 100 answers for this question. And there are other books that have many more answers to this question. It's a very, very famous question that everybody asks. A lot of ink has been spilled for this one. And that is, Hanukkah's 8 days. We celebrate for 8 days. Why do we celebrate it for 8 days? There was enough oil for 1 day. So for 1 day, it wasn't a miracle. We should only be celebrating Hanukkah for 7 days, for the 7 extra days that the oil lasted. Why are we celebrating it for 8 days? So we're going to give 3 main answers, but there's, as I said, hundreds of answers for this question. Okay, paragraph 2. So after they found the oil, yes, finding the oil was a miracle, that it had the seal of the Kohen Gadol, which meant that that all negativity and impurity could not touch it. So yes, it was an incredible miracle that they found it. But once they found it, there was enough for 1 day. So that first day that the menorah was lit was a natural occurrence. So why are we specifically celebrating it for 8 full days when seemingly the miracle was 7 out of the 8 days? Okay. What was the miracle on Hanukkah's first day? If there was enough oil to last for 1 day, then why do we say that the Hanukkah miracle lasted for 8 days? To explain what actually happened, there are 3 ways. Okay, so what actually happened? What was the miracle? We all know that the oil lasted for 8 days, but how did it happen? We have to know. Go a little further, go a little deeper, and understand how did the miracle actually happen? How did it actually transpire? So there's a story about Rabbi Yonasan Eifshitz. He lived about 250 years ago. He was a brilliant little boy, and all the officers and the government officials they enjoyed speaking to him because he was so brilliant. And one day, this officer shows up to Rabbi Yonasan's house. He was still a kid, and asked the father, "Is Yonasan, is he back from school yet?" So the father said no. So the officer said, "I want him to come to my house, but don't tell him where I live. Don't tell him where I live. And I'm leaving a guard here to make sure that you don't tell him where I live. And he has to figure out himself how to get to my house." So the boy comes home. His father says, "This officer wants to meet with you." He says, "Where does he live?" The father says, "I can't tell you. Got to figure it out yourself." So he says, okay. He goes outside. He asks directions from one person, from another person, tell him where to go. He goes. He gets there, knocks on the door, officer opens the door. Oh, so nice that you came. I'm so happy that you came. How'd you know how to get here? So he said, oh, I asked that when they gave me directions, I'm here. So the officer said, what would happen if you would ask someone for directions and they would tell you go to the right? Then you ask another person direction, they tell you go to the left. What would you do? So what?
It's sort of like in Israel.
Or you go, you're sorry.
It's actually not funny. When I was a little girl, that was a long time ago. We went to Israel as a family, and we got lost. I don't remember where we were. And my parents asked directions. And they did the exact opposite on purpose because because they asked an Arab for directions, and whatever he said, they did the opposite. And that's how we got home. So that was a while ago.
That's funny. Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I remember from my childhood. But anyway, he said in this case, he said, what's so when one person has to go to the right, the next person has to go to the left, what do you do? He said, I would ask a third person and I would follow the majority. So the officer said, oh, so you would follow the majority. So how come when it comes to religion, you don't follow the majority? Why is it that there's 70 nations, 69 nations say one thing, and one nation says something else? Why don't you follow the majority when it comes to your religion? So the smart boy, he said, when I don't know something, I'll ask and I'll follow the majority. But when I do know, even if 1,000 people tell me otherwise, I'm going to do what I know. So the same thing is with us. We have a Torah, we have mitzvahs, and we can't just suffice with the story that we learned in kindergarten. We have to know. We have to know how did the miracle happen? How did the miracle happen? And again, there's hundreds of reasons of ways, and there's hundreds of reasons to answer questions, and there's many different ways that things could have happened. Let's discuss three of the options of what could have happened to make the menorah last for 8 days, and also we are trying to answer why we're celebrating for 8 days and not 7. Okay, one option is as follows: that, like the story of Elisha, the oil increased. One of two ways. The miracle is that the oil increased in one of two ways. Either you had a jug of oil, and the Kohen Gadol poured from the jug into all the branches, into all the cups. When he was done pouring, the jug was still full. And that's how they had enough oil for the next night. That's one option. The quantity, the jug replenished. Option number 2, take the jug of oil, pour it into all the cups, and in the morning, when they came back, the oil replenished itself and filled up by itself. So that would be a miracle in the quantity of the oil. Great, but there's a problem. There's a halachic problem with that train of thought, and that is that we have to fulfill mitzvahs in a physical world with physical things. The oil had to be oil that came from an olive. It couldn't be oil that came from heaven. It couldn't be miraculous oil. So if the oil replenished, right? Then it's heavenly oil. And with heavenly oil, that's not how Hashem wants us to fulfill mitzvah. He wanted the oil to be pressed from an olive in a physical, natural way. And therefore, we can't say that the miracle of Hanukkah, why we're celebrating for 8 days, is because the oil replenished itself. Like the story of Elisha. It's got to be more than that. Option number 2. Okay, let me just read option number 1. Okay. 1. The quantity of the oil increased miraculously, either because after the menorah was filled each night, the jug stayed as full as can be, or because after the first night, although the jug was empty and the situation looked grim, Each morning, the cups were replenished and were still full with oil to the brim. The problem with this explanation is that in order to fulfill the mitzvah obligation, the oil had to be squeezed from an olive naturally. New oil from heaven, it couldn't be. Okay, number 2. Next option is that it wasn't that the oil replenished, but rather the oil got superpower. It was the quality of the oil was enhanced. Usually, this amount of oil is only good. This amount of oil is only good for one night. But this oil had extra special. The chemical properties of the oil was enhanced so that this amount of oil was able to last for 8 days instead of 1. And again, there's 2 ways that could have happened. Either take the oil, divide it into 8 parts. Each night, you only use 1 part. And because the oil had such a great quality, even though it was just an 1/8, it lasted a whole night. That's one option. Another option is that they filled all the cups, and every night the oil just went down another 1/8. But there's a problem with that. What's the problem? Problem is that the halachic obligation when for performing the mitzvah, you have to fill the cups up to the top. And there's a certain measurement that's set in stone, how much you have to fill it. It's called a half a lug. This is the measurement. And why is it a half a lug? Because a half a lug is what you need in order for the menorah to burn an entire winter night. The longest night of the year needs a half a lug. Therefore, a half a lug is a measurement that has to go into the menorah. The cups have to be full. And if you only put in 1/8, then it's not full. And if every night only 1/8 is diminished by an 1/8, then again it's not full. Only the first night was it full. Then it was 7/8, 6/8, 5/8. The menorah wasn't full. So that's a problem with.
Like Sarah with this candles burned from week 3, and maybe it burnt the whole week.
So again,
Just like Sarah.
right,
The
exactly.
whole week. So maybe this, once you filled it, then burnt the whole week, full 7 days.
So that's the first explanation. It's like, the plant itself, it's about the fire pot.
So what made Sarah and Rivka's candles burn all week? I think that it was the quality of the oil, just like the quality of the challah dough. It says there was a bracha on her dough. Even if you ate a little bit of the dough, you were full and you were satisfied. There was a bracha on the dough. So I think that for the Shabbos candles of Sarah and Rivka, it wasn't a mitzvah every single day. It was a mitzvah on Friday to light once, and it just stayed lit till the next week. So it wasn't replenished every day. It wasn't necessary it wasn't replenished every day because the mitzvah was just like candles on Friday. Sarah and Rivka's candles, the quality of the oil, because they were so great, God made a miracle that the oil just lasted for 7 days, lasted for so much longer. So, but again, there has to be something unique about Hanukkah because we already have a precedent of Sarah and Rivka for oil that has a very good quality. We already have a precedent with the story of Elisha for oil that's replenished. And there was no great holiday to celebrate either of those, right? There's no holiday to celebrate the fact that this woman was able to pour so much oil from her little jug. Also, interesting fact: we know that from produce we're supposed to give from our earnings. We're supposed to give 1/10 to charity, meiser, right? This woman who was blessed by Elisha and poured from the little bit of oil that she had into so many vessels, halachically speaking, she did not have to give meiser. She did not have to give 1/10 away to charity because it was heavenly oil. It was heavenly. Something that's heavenly is not considered produce that you have to give a tithe for. But that's just a side note. Okay, so I'm going to read number 2, and then we're going to go on to what really happened with Hanukkah. 2, the quality of the oil changed miraculously. The oil lasted for 8 times longer than it could usually. either the oil was divided into 8 parts and only 1 part was used each night to light, or the menorah was filled, but only 1/8 of the oil was consumed each night. The problem with this explanation is that in order to fulfill the mitzvah obligation, with the amount of half a lug, the cups had to be filled each night completely. This measurement was set because for the longest winter nights, it was necessary. Okay, so what happened on Hanukkah? It's not quantity, it's not quality, it's something else. It's something else that actually happened. It was the impossible of the impossible happened on Hanukkah. Any other miracle. So there's different, as we said, there's different ways of serving Hashem. There's natural ways, there's miraculous ways of serving. For us to serve God and for God to reciprocate that to us. So we can serve God in a natural way. We can serve God in a miraculous way, which means that we go above and beyond our intellect and our emotion and our feelings. And God does the same. God gives us nature, and God gives us miracles. So let's think about a miracle, splitting of the sea. Can you close your eyes and picture the splitting of the sea? Jews going, the water standing up and like walls, and the Jews going through. Or the miracle of Purim. Close your eyes. Could you imagine the miracle, Esther and the conversation with the king and everything that happened? It's a miracle. It's not something that we could do, but it's something that we could picture in our mind. We could picture in our mind. But then there's something that we can't picture in our mind. For example, could you picture in your mind me sitting here and at the same time standing here? Could you picture that? No. Why? Because it's two opposites. Could you picture me writing and not writing at the same time? You can't picture that because it's two opposites. Could you picture me driving a car and not driving at the same time? You can't picture it because it's two opposites. It's above our comprehension. We can't wrap our head around it. But Hashem, not only could he do the impossible, but he could do the impossible of the impossible, which is called Nimna HaNimna'is, because nothing could stop him. And God could do something. God could do two opposite things at the same time. What was the miracle of Hanukkah? There was a flame. The flame was there because it was consuming oil. You can't have a flame without oil. So the flame was consuming the oil, and at the same time, the flame was not consuming the oil. Two opposites at the same time, and therefore the cups were full. The cups were full every day, and the oil burnt and didn't burn at the same time. Similar to the sneh, the burning bush. Thank you. The burning bush. Moshe came and he saw a bush that was burning and not being consumed. So in the same way, the fire was burning only because of the oil, yet the oil wasn't consumed. That was the miracle of Hanukkah. And that answers, that's going to answer all the questions. We're going to go in depth to see how it answers all the questions that we had. Okay, so number 3, Hashem didn't just do something impossible that we could only imagine, like the splitting of the sea or the miracle of Purim. But Hashem did the impossible of the impossible. Two opposite things he did combine. The fire consumed the oil and didn't consume the oil at the same time. It's something that we can't understand, like writing and not writing at the same time with your hand, or the impossibility of comprehending how at the same time a person could stand still and climb. Okay, this is why I need the poem, because I would have forgotten about this. An example of this we have in the Torah. We have the Aron, the ark. The ark had to be specific measurements, 1.5 amos by 2.5 amos. Otherwise, if it didn't have those specific measurements, it wouldn't be an ark. Yet, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, if you were to measure the Kodesh HaKadoshim from one corner till the next corner, what was it? I forget how many amas it was. Whatever it was. And then if you were to take the ark and to put it inside, in the middle, and you were to measure from one corner of the ark to the corner of the room, and from the other corner of the ark to the other corner of the room, it would still be the same measurement as if it wasn't there. So it was impossible. Something that has measurement, yet doesn't take up space. So that's another example of Nimnam Hanimnais, where you see this concept of two opposites. You have to have an exact measurement, and yet it doesn't take up any space. Okay.
So isn't the candle burning all week the same time?
The candles burning all week wasn't the same type of thing as the.
You had the flame, but it wasn't burning.
So, but with Sarah and Rivka, the miracle was that the oil was very special, and it lasted longer than regular oil.
Was it oil or flame?
I believe it was oil. So the oil wasn't replenished, and the oil
The oil was extra special.
it was extra special, and it just lasted very long. But it did diminish at a much slower rate. The oil that the Sarah and Rivka used to light their Shabbat candles was very special oil. It lasted a very long time, but it wasn't a type of flame. Yeah, it wasn't consuming the oil and not consuming the oil at the same time. Yeah. Okay, an example of this we find in the Torah with the Aron that had to be 1.5 by 2.5 amas exactly. Yet it didn't take up any space in the Kodesh HaKodashim, which was the holiest place. Okay. Now let's look at the three possibilities. We're going to go back to all three of them, and we're going to see the advantage. We're going to see the advantage of each one, or the advantage of the third over the other two. Okay, going back to our first possibility that the oil increased, right? So if you go to that one, when did you see the miracle? When did the miracle happen? The miracle happened only in the beginning, when the jug remained full, or when the oil was replenished. The miracle happened in the beginning. And then if you go into the Beis Hamikdash throughout the night and you look at the menorah, it isn't evident that there's a miracle happening right now. The miracle happened right in the beginning, and then for the rest of the night, the oil burned naturally. The miracle was only right in the beginning when the oil was replenished, either replenished in the jug or replenished in the cup. If you go to the second option, where the oil was enhanced, when did the miracle happen? The miracle happened in the beginning when the chemical properties of it got more power. And if you would walk into the Holy Temple in the middle of the night and you were to sit there for a couple of hours or for a little while, you would see that the oil is diminishing at a much slower rate. So you are able to recognize the miracle the entire time. But when did the miracle actually happen? Only in the beginning. But if you go to the third option, which is what really happened, that the menorah, that the flame that is burning the oil and not burning the oil at the same time, that miracle, when is the miracle happening? Every single second. Every single second the miracle is happening. You're seeing this unbelievable thing. There's a flame and it's burning, but yet nothing is being diminished. So the third way is obviously the highest, greatest, most unbelievable miracle, that the two opposites coming together. Okay.
I can see it. I'm not content that it happened so long ago. I want to see it today.
Absolutely. We're waiting. We're waiting for miracle. You know, that's what we're all asking for. We want to see that Hashem could do the impossible. Hashem could really do the impossible.
Praying for that in Israel. Praying for Israel for this impossible. And there is a lot of stories. Miracles.
Explain.
So we're alive now,
Okay.
but the longer we live, the closer we're getting to death. So it's kind of also opposite, which I'm doing both at the same time. He's keeping us alive, but we're getting closer to. No.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
But I think what we're trying what we're focusing on is when Hashem does miracles, and Hashem does miracles every day, and the fact that we're alive, we wake up in the morning is absolutely a miracle. But there are there are miracles that we could comprehend. There are miracles that we could understand, and then there are miracles that are above logic, and then there are miracles that are the impossible of the impossible, like two opposites happening at the same time. And we all God's miracles are wonderful and great. And
the oil had basically got, so then people got to see this miracle, and it's profound, and that, but like you say, every day there's a miracle. Now there's a war. They went over and they didn't go to the kibbutz. That was Dati. You know, every single thing, or this person is being saved and she said she's going to keep Shabbos, and they just like, okay, they passed by. You know, so it's an individual miracle that eventually people let you know about. When it's global, you have the base on the gush, you have certain things, it's you know, that's Mashiach. That's gonna be global, but other than that, we're so gullus dispersed. I think miracles are happening to people individually. More than global.
so basically, there are all different kinds of miracles, and there are global miracles and there are individual miracles. The miracles can depend on us.
Right.
According to how we act, God reciprocates. Hashem reciprocates that love, and that's what happened in the case of Hanukkah, and that's what's going to happen for us as well. So there are, and there are different times, and there are different situations, and there are different circumstances, and there's different. So we're going to speak about that. There's three different types of miracles. There's three different types of how we can serve Hashem. And there's three different types of periods in Jewish history. And all those things are linked together. So according to where we stand in history, and according to how we behave, and according to our commitment to Hashem, that those factors play a very big role in how we experience the miracles and what type of miracles Hashem does for us.
Sometimes if we don't commit Hashem, and our generations back, it's on their, strong their marriage, and then we got back. Because there were people that weren't Shomer Shabbos and whatever. So you wonder, if we was there.
Well, no.
And also we can't judge.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the greatness of a person based on the actions that we see. We don't know their heart. We can't judge. We can't judge.
We've been looking at the miracle of the unity. A few weeks before, all those people said, we're not going to intermillion if something happens. We're not fighting for our country.
Yeah, they said
the second
that.
It happened, I don't think anyone even thought
They said that, and I'm sure they were thankful.
so that was a miracle unto itself.
Mhm.
This- the unity-
Wait 5-7 hours.
We have one soul.
That's right.
And that soul gets
So sad.
activated, every single person, no matter what.
Absolutely.
How about the thing that every generation has tried to destroy us, and yet we and yet we're still here. I mean, that's two things happening at the same time that are totally different.
Right. There you go. There you go.
That was an open miracle for all the people that were killed on Kiddush Hashem. And all the people that, the amount of Torah and Limud and what's going on in those 75 years, it built up a whole new generation of people.
Yeah, so we're not here to figure out every who deserves what, and that's not for us. We can't, exactly. It's not up to us to make the calculations.
What you were saying though, about the miracles, so we have miracles every day.
So yes, there are miracles. Yes, there are miracles every day, and sometimes we see them. Sometimes, just like we spoke about with a mitzvah and a kavana, right? There could be a miracle, and then there could that reveals godliness, and then there could be a miracle that reveals godliness even more. So there's many different types of miracles, many different levels of revelation, and yeah, maybe see the greatest miracle with the coming of Mashiach, and have our hostages back, and win the war, and without any more losses or anything like Chas v'Shalom. But absolutely.
Where the person asked his kid, he saw a suitcase, and he asked his kid, where are you going? He goes, oh, I'm getting ready for Mashiach. So the little sister goes, me too. So she starts packing her things, and she packed. The first one packed this beautiful dress, her prettiest dress. The other one packed her uniform. So the father says, "What happened? I want Mashiach to know that I went to Beis Yaakov."
So cute. Yeah. Oh, it's so sweet. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through what I said, and I'm going to continue. We're reviewing what we just said, was that there are three different possibilities of how the miracle could have happened, and the degree of the revelation of God's miracle in those three options. The first two, where you just see the miracle in the beginning. The third one, where you see the miracle constantly. Okay, according to the first possibility, that the oil increased miraculously, only in the beginning would the miracle be visible. Throughout the night, the oil would burn in a way that is natural. According to the second possibility, the fact that the oil would burn at a slower rate you could see, but the miracle would happen only in the hour that Hashem would change the oil's power. According to the third possibility of two opposites happening simultaneously, the miracle was seen clearly and it happened constantly. Okay, so we see there are different levels of revelation of God's miracles. Not all miracles are the same. Okay, now, with regards to us serving Hashem, there are three possibilities. Possibility number one, wake up in the morning, we daven, we say Shema, and we accept upon ourselves the yoke of heaven. We realize that Hashem is in control, and then we go to work. And the rest of the day, we serve Hashem, and we're inspired by the Shema that we said in the morning. But the way we serve Hashem is according to my nature, according to what's comfortable for me, according to my logic, according to my understanding. Then there's a higher level. I say Shema in the morning, and I take the Shema with me the entire day. Shema, what does Shema mean? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And the whole entire day, we're thinking about Hashem, and we're thinking about our dedication and loyalty to Hashem, and it gives us the power to go beyond our. Thank you so much for coming. To go beyond our nature, to go out of our box, to do more, because our whole day we're thinking about our dedication to Hashem. And the third level is that we say Shema in the morning, and not only do we think about that now do we think about that we're dedicated to Hashem and we're willing to go out of our box and we're willing to go even beyond logic. But the third way is that a person is actively actually ready to actually give up his life for Hashem, not just thinking about it, but doing it. Those are the three levels of serving Hashem. And we thought, oh, Mesiras Nefesh, that was for the generation of the Holocaust, for the other generations, for the past generations. We didn't think that it was something so prevalent in our times. But here you have the soldiers that are actually going into the line of fire and actually giving up their lives for the security of Israel and for the security and for the love of the Hashem and of the love of the Jewish people. So these are three different modes of serving Hashem. One is to serve Hashem in a natural way. One is to serve Hashem in a way that we're constantly thinking about giving up our life, and thinking about having that devotion and that dedication. That if I'm willing to give up my life for Hashem, then for sure I could give up this temptation, right? Yeah. And then the third level is when you're actually ready to actually give up your life. It's not just your thought process, it actually comes down into action. Okay, so let's go through that.
I don't think it turns it suicide. No.
Not suicide, chas v'shalom. It means it's the opposite. It means that it means, go ahead.
There are things that, there are people that deliberately give up their lives for a cause.
It's not for Hashem, that's for themselves, whatever goal, we talk about it outside, it's not for Hashem.
They're
Yeah.
giving it up because they want what's promised to them in heaven.
It's not for Hashem. It's very personal, very selfish.
In other words, it's not before we say we want to die.
No, we don't really say it. So we say if it happens.
Say Shema Yisrael, whatever happened,
Say we want to serve Hashem.
They all want to survive, that's that,
right?
we want to live.
The idea is that we're going to survive, even though we're
Yes.
willing.
Yeah,
The
if
idea
needed.
is that we're going to
Say someone
preserve
else.
our lives.
Absolutely.
I don't think you have time to
Absolutely.
think in those moments.
Yeah, but they say Shema.
You say Shema and that's it, and whatever happened, happened.
Right before they go out and look in.
Yeah.
Right? What else you can
Between
do?
you and me,
That's it.
it's a lot easier to say once in a while, I'll give my life for Hashem, then I'll give up temptations. So,
The question is, how committed, how devoted, how dedicated are we for Hashem? That's basically the question. Is it within the realm of logic? Is it above logic? How far am I ready to go? So I'll share the story that my husband shared on Shabbos, on Friday night. The story with Adi, 22. My husband actually met with his family. Adi was 22 years old. She already finished her service in the army, and I'm going to bring out the positive point. Basically, they needed her to run it to man there's a bunch of computers to get all the data to figure out all the data from all these computers and to get the information that was necessary. And she would be perfect for the job. And her parents really didn't want her to go. She didn't have a choice. But maybe this particular job she didn't have to take, but she really wanted to do what she could to help. It could have been the safest job, yes, because it would be behind the desk. Anyway, she's getting ready to go. She puts on her uniform. Her father puts on his uniform because he was also called to reserve duty. And she takes a picture with her dad. And she was so proud. And she turns to her father and she said, "From the age of 0, this is what you raised me for. What did you want me to be? A chicken farmer?" Her commitment fighting for her country and for her people was so strong. The end is that her father drove her to a meeting point where she was going to meet another soldier to take her to this place where she was supposed to work, and then there was Tzava Adom, and there was an alert, and they jumped out of the car, they went to the side of the road, and a rocket hit her, and she was killed. But it's a very difficult story. My husband actually met with them and spoke to them. But the question is, we may not be in Israel, and we might not have a gun, and we might not have a uniform. But in our lives, how we also from the cradle, we were also educated, Hashem, 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 Mesiras Nefesh, give up your life for Hashem, and all that. But the question is, practically speaking, how committed are we? How not just to do what's comfortable for me in my life, not just to do what makes sense to me. What happens when it doesn't make sense? What happens when it's beyond my logic and my understanding, and Hashem wants me to do something that I can't understand? Then what? How are we as devoted and as dedicated as Adi to say from the cradle, this is how you raised me, and this is and to have that same passion to not just to go because you're forced to go because you want to go, because this is what you were raised for. This is what So in our lives, if it means hugging our child for a few minutes for a few minutes longer, or if it means although you're tired, although you're whatever it is, and you really don't feel like it, you really don't want to push yourself to do another mitzvah, to help another person that's in need. But are we ready? Are we ready to fight the battle? Are we ready to give up something for Hashem, or we're just ready to, wake up in the morning and do the regular, do the usual, do what's comfortable, natural, and normal, and that's it? Or are we ready to do more, to go beyond what's comfortable, to go out of our box, to really show our devotion and dedication, and to give it our all, to really give it our all. So I'm saying that as much as it's just incredible it's just incredible, because I know for myself that if there was a danger, I don't see myself running into a line of fire to saving anybody. If I see one drop of blood, I'm running the other direction. But I'm saying here you see people, young people, the idealism and the passion and the love and the strength and the bravery. It's incredible. I'm saying, so it's easy to judge. It's easy to judge other people and say, oh, they are Shomer Shabbos, they're not Shomer Shabbos. For me to be Shomer Shabbos, what effort does that take? It takes zero effort. What do I have to do? Close my phone? I'm saying, and it's not even, you tell your 2-year-old child, it's Shabbos, they don't even complain for a phone because they know that it's not negotiable. Is that an effort? Where's the effort? It's not just about where you are on the ladder. It's how far did you climb? It's what did you do? How much did you schwitz? How much did you give up? How much did you give up? For Hashem, what's your sacrifice? Where is there sacrifice in our lives, or are we just living it up? It's I'm talking to myself. But when we stretch, when we do more, when we do things that are beyond what we think we're capable of, that's where that's where our dedication shows. Okay. With regards to serving Hashem, there are possibilities 3. 1, we start the day by saying Shema, to acknowledge that Hashem is in control only, but throughout the day we serve Hashem according to what makes sense to you and me, like the miracle of replenishing oil that can burn naturally. Serve Hashem in a natural way. 2, the Shema that I'm up to the third page. The Shema that we say in the morning hour is visible throughout our day like the oil with a visible, long-lasting power. Mesiras Nefesh is constantly on our mind to go out of our box, the ability we find. Then comes number 3. The Shema that we say daily makes us ready to have Mesiras Nefesh actually. Everything that throughout the day we do is driven by Mesiras Nefesh for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your whole day, it's like Rabbi Akiva. He said, "Oh, when is it going?" His whole life, everything that he did, was driven by this concept of what he was waiting for the day that he could actually give up his life for Hashem. But his entire life was driven by Mesiras Nefesh. That the just absolute dedication. Whatever Hashem wants, that's what I'm going to do. That's where I'm going to be. And now, parallel to the, we spoke about 3 miracles. We spoke about 3 ways of serving Hashem. Now we're going to speak about 3 different times of Jewish history, 3 different circumstances, 3 different periods of Jewish history. There are 3 different periods of Jewish history. 1, when the world is aware of Hashem and acknowledges that which is holy. An initial push of saying Shema in the morning is enough to keep us going. When the Beis HaMikdash was here and everyone could acknowledge God, that's, holy world. That is, it's at that point, just the first level that we spoke about, to serve God in a natural way, that's fine. But then number 2, when Hashem is hidden in a natural way, we need the awareness of Mesiras Nefesh to accompany us all day, so we won't stray and go on the right path we will stay. The second option is, it's natural, once the Beis HaMikdash is not here anymore, it's natural that Hashem is hidden. The world, Olam, comes to the word Helem, Hashem hides himself here. It's natural that Hashem hides himself here. That's how Hashem created the world. So we have this constantly in our mind. We think about Mesiras Nefesh, and we're able to persevere and do what we need to do and stay on the right path. But then comes the time that we're in now. And the Rebbe actually uses the word captivity. When the other nations, they take us into captivity. When the world tries to take us into captivity and tries to block godliness actively. With Mesiras Nefesh, the darkness, we must fight to turn darkness into light. The third possibility is when this dark cloud comes into this world, and you have those people that are do everything in possible to destroy us, to block us, to disturb us, to bother us, to annihilate us, whatever, etc., and to take us into captivity. And at that time, what do we have to do? We have to fight it. We have to fight it with Mesiras Nefesh, with willing and ready to literally give up our life for Hashem. And that's how we have to combat. That's how we have to combat that. And that also happened in the time of Hanukkah. What happened in the time of Hanukkah? Did it make sense that the Maccabees should go and fight against the Greek army? There were so few people. There were so many Greeks. It made no sense. It made no sense. It was illogical. There was no hope. There was no chance. And but the Greeks, what did they want? They wanted that the Jewish people should say that they don't have a part in Hashem, to separate themselves from Hashem. When it comes to that, when the Greeks, when they so adamantly wanted to separate us from Hashem, and so adamantly wanted us to you want to learn Torah because it's interesting, or because it makes you smart, fine, but not that it's God's Torah. As soon as we have the enemies that want to separate us from Hashem and want to block us, even if it makes no sense and it's illogical and it's impossible, how can we ever win? That's what happened with the Greeks. That's what happened with the Jews fighting the Greeks. And when you go above logic and it doesn't make sense, and you're ready to give up your life. You're ready to give up your life for Hashem. You're ready to run to the line of fire, to save another Jewish person, to save the Jewish nation, to save for Eretz Yisrael. Then what happens? Hashem reciprocates that love. Hashem reciprocates that love, and that's why the miracle of Hanukkah, the miracle of the oil, was the two opposites coming together. Something that's impossible. When we do the impossible, Hashem does the impossible of the impossible. And in a world where you see so much anti-Semitism and all the pro-Palestinian parades and everything else that they're doing, and it seems impossible. It seems impossible. But Hashem, from the story of Hanukkah, we learn that if we put in every ounce of every fiber of our being and show our dedication and devotion to Hashem, and Hashem, your will is the most important thing. It's not what I'm going to gain from it and my spiritual heights and my spiritual levels. It's about making this world a place where, making this world a home for Hashem, a beautiful, bright home for Hashem. It's when we're 100% committed with our entire being to Hashem, Hashem is going to reciprocate that. Hashem did reciprocate that love, and Hashem will reciprocate that love. And that's why Hanukkah is such a major holiday, and that's why we have the menorah outside and all the public menorah lightings. And you know what the menorah shows? The menorah shows our dedication to Hashem and Hashem's love for us. And the other nations can't stand it. They can't stand it. That's why they fight us so strongly, because they don't understand our dedication to Hashem, and they can't stand Hashem's love for us. But the menorah represents the impossible of the impossible. That Hashem could do anything way above logic, and we go above logic for Hashem, and Hashem does the impossible back for us. He gave us the highest type of miracle to show us how much He loves us. The menorah literally represents Hashem's love for us. Okay, 2 more paragraphs. Hashem performed the miracle of the oil to the highest degree. The impossible of the impossible came to be. The reason that Hashem performed the Hanukkah miracle in this way is to reciprocate the love that the Yidden did display. The Maccabees fought the Greeks above and beyond logic every step of the way, every minute of the day. And we can learn from them today. Each and every one of us must display Mesiras Nefesh in Hashem's army. Together we'll bring Mashiach speedily. Amen. So we have to in our way think about how we can be. We are in Hashem's army. How can we be the best soldiers that we can be? We're, even if we're not actually with, what spiritually, what's our spiritual ammunition? It's Torah, it's mitzvahs. The fact that you all came here, you stopped your day, you could have been shopping or laundry or cleaning or cooking, whatever it is, but you stopped your day. You made this your priority. That is being a soldier. That's being a soldier. And the learning that you learn here, and then you share it with your family, and you pass it on. And the passion that you get to recharge, and bring it into our daily life, to do our mitzvahs with more passion, the question is that we have to ask ourselves 24/7 is, what does Hashem want for me right now? And that's where I am, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it with all my heart and all my soul. That's what it means. That's what it means, Mesiras Nefesh, for us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We're all on the journey together.